On tonight's show, our special guest is going to be Chris Bocas from the Spencer Basketball League, and we're going to talk about the Spencer Rescue Squad, the school district, and Gary Suter, and how those all work together. Stay tuned. Gotcha on the backside. Ba-da-da-da. Good evening and welcome to another edition of The Other Side. I'm your host, Bob Serber, along with my fellow host, Paul Fournier, or as we call him, Florida Paul. How was Florida, Paul?
Florida was fantastic. It was a wonderful 10 days of warm weather and traveling to water parks and theme parks and
Living the dream.
It was good. It was good. But I'm back, ready to go.
All right, well, let's get started. Our guest tonight is Chris Bocas, the president of the Spencer Basketball League. Chris, how you doing this evening?
Good, thank you.
Thanks for coming in. We meant to have Chris in a little while ago. We for one reason or another, we couldn't make it work, so we wanted to bring him in and have him talk about the kids. So basically, tell us about the league. How did it start? What was your involvement in it? And just run through the whole thing for us.
Sure. Basically, in 2010, I joined the Merchants League, the Merchants Basketball League, and took on a board position. At the same time, I was also the vice president of the Spencer Soccer Club. And working with a collaboration with Jay Rio, who's the president of the soccer club, we thought it would be a real good idea to create a sports association here in Spencer where it would be a lot easier for the parents to sign up their kids, to get practice schedules, to get an organized leadership out there for the sports. So I worked with Larry St. Jean for a couple of years in the Merchants League, and Larry was nice enough to hand me the reins in at the end of 2012, and at the closing ceremonies, I had 3 or 4 parents come up to me and express interest in helping me out. And Dave Woodward basically came to me and said, "Listen, I'm right by you. Let's get this thing launched and do it the right." Our bylaws, our constitutions. We designed the nonprofit organization, the Spencer Basketball Club, with the help of the Spencer Soccer Club. We were able to get a lot of guidance that we needed to start a legit league. And Dave, infamously donated $100, where I bought stamps, flyers, and a P.O. box. And the rest is history. We were really shocked. We thought that the community, who has a tendency to be a little shy at new stuff coming in, would be tentative to sign up. We had 175 kids sign up. We introduced a brand new program called the K2 program for kindergarten, first grade, and second graders. It's a clinic that we run on Saturday mornings. It's been a huge success. Then last year we had an open gym league and a travel league. We joined forces with Doug Casalt, who was running the travel league, and then we decided to put it all under one roof. So we had a great year our first year. The second year, we saw our membership go through the roof to 230 kids. Wow. And what we recognized is we needed to have an in-town league. We needed to bring back some of the things that we were missing when Merchants went away. We had travel, we had our clinic, but we needed something for those kids that were almost like right in between. Didn't really want to get into the travel scene, but really still wanted to play basketball and deserved to learn how to play basketball. And so we created the in-town league this year. So under Spencer Basketball Club, we have 3 leagues right now.
Wow. And people don't understand. I didn't run the league with Andy. I worked as a referee and a coach with Andy Kieran out in North Brookfield.
Yeah.
For 14 years. And just doing that takes up an incredible amount of time. But like Paul's a coach, and I know being a coach, you're much more invested. The last probably 8 years I worked as a referee, so it was a lot easier. But it's the setup, it's the breakdown, it's the paperwork, it's making the phone calls. People don't understand how much work goes into that, and it's so important to have volunteers to help with that program.
Well, not only that, and being involved, I've been involved, so this is year number 3. So the first year the kids played in the Merchant League, which was chaos at best.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was, you practiced maybe once a week, and then everybody got together on a Saturday and you played a game, and that was the end of it, that type of thing. And I'll give Larry credit for continuing that and trying to keep that running, but there was no skill levels, there was no skill taught. It was a fun league.
Pick-up
It
basketball.
was pickup basketball. And then last year, you guys stepped it up a notch, and I coached one of the travel teams. And seeing firsthand how far behind we were from other teams and other towns was an eye-opening experience. We didn't win a game. As a matter of fact, I don't even think we were close to winning any games.
I remember that last year. I remember you
We
told me
got
about
throttled
that.
every game. But this year, having the travel teams as well as the in-town team, as well as starting the K through 2 program, now what these guys have done is started to build a base, and then we're going to be able to continue from there. So they've done a fantastic job, Chris, and that whole crew. We had a couple of hiccups in the beginning. We had
Yeah.
some disgruntled parents. Well, not we, you.
Yeah, I mean, Rob Hoekstra and I have, Rob's been huge. Doug stepped aside last year, and Rob stepped in for him this year. And he's been absolutely instrumental for running the travel program and helping us establish that skill level and bring that extra level to, we do have a lot of parents, especially even in first grade, second grade, they'll come up to me and they'll say, why aren't they playing big games? And I'll say, point out your kid. And they'll point out the kid. And I said, is that the kid that can't dribble right now? Because that's really what the problem was out there, is a lot of our kids didn't have the fundamentals down. Now they're being taught the fundamentals before they play the game. And we gave them 4 weeks of preseason basketball. Just go out there, learn the rules. Now we're bringing in referees to enforce those rules. It's amazing how much they learn just from this structure and this curriculum.
It's funny when you go from the beginning of the season with a team, and as a referee, you get to see all the teams. And parents would say to me at the beginning of the season, they're like, well, he can't do this and he can't do that. And I said, I think it was a 12-week program. I said, you wait till March comes. And I said, talk to me in March. Mm-hmm. And it's always amazing, but when you're doing fundamentals like that and you're teaching these kids, which is the way, the difference is remarkable. And the kids learn, when they're learning, they're enjoying playing more.
Yeah, I have another set of kids. I have older kids that played hockey, so I know how important it is for that practice time. Mm-hmm. And you need for the amount of however many games you play, you need twice the amount of practices. So if you're playing 1 game a week, you need 2 practices. If you're playing 2 games a week, you should have 4 practices. But taking the time that we time back, we got 3 more hours, and
system that once you get these kids developed and as they move on, these are skills that hopefully are going to make sports not only more beneficial for our kids, but make for better teams, make us more competitive.
Yeah, I absolutely, and I mean we have a responsibility to try and keep these kids in town, because that's the only way we're going to be a true feeder. But I am also a coach of the 6th grade travel girls team, and 3 of my girls made the Knoxdale team as 6th graders, and one of them plays fairly awful. And it's because they've got that base, and they've been able to go in there and compete with the 7th and 8th graders who kind of came through the Merchants League, which was more pickup. And those kids are doing, they're getting it. They're starting to get why it's important to do these boring drills over and over and over again. And why does he keep having me dribble around these cones over and over and over again. What does this
Pays
cone
off.
have to do with anything? And then they put themselves in a game and they do a move, and the first thing that they do is they go back to that cone the next practice and try and fake it out a little bit more, because they're starting to understand why we're making them do layups over and over. If you come to our clinic on Saturday mornings, you'll see that we set it up. There's a shooting drill, a layups drill, a passing drill, and a dribbling drill. It's like that every single week. And we mix it up with different games. We have, sharks and minnows and all that, because they are little kids. We do have to keep them entertained for 50 minutes, right? But we want them teaching the fundamentals. And it's amazing when they first come in December how they are at the end of February.
Well, it's funny because it's like, especially I refereed first and second graders. That was all I did. So I was like their introduction to basketball, and I had a blast. I mean, I did that for probably the last 10 years I was there, and I enjoyed the hell out of that. It was like herding kittens sometimes. Yeah, and you blow a whistle, and you'd be like,
Yeah.
And I'd get them giggling, and it's like, but it's important. I mean, if these kids can learn something, this is something that's going to carry right straight through, and it's only going to benefit us as a district and as a school,
Right.
and the teams are going to get better,
Right.
whether it's the boys' teams or the girls' teams.
Right.
Well, but it also gives these kids something to do in the wintertime. Not everybody skis, not everybody snowmobiles, but it gives these kids something to do in the wintertime. And it is as much as gym time as we can get, we need to continue it on. I think North Brookfield actually has offered March to us to go up and play in March.
Yeah. One of the things we did was we only had, in Paul's division, we only had 2 teams. So rather than have those 2 teams play each other over and over again, which we did 2 years ago with the girls' teams, and while we made the best of it, it was not fun playing the same team 12 weeks. So we went out to Andy, and Andy offered us 5 teams. So we joined forces, and now we have our 2 teams playing their 5 teams in a mixed. And Andy sends out 1 team to East Brookfield, and we send 1 team to North Brookfield every week.
Oh, that's great.
And then they're into
He's a good
March,
guy.
and he's fantastic. And he's like, he found out the other day that we were on school vacation. He's like, I got the gym over at North Brookfield. If you want to come down, come on down. So I brought my team down there in a snowstorm, and we had a great practice for 2 hours. It's great that he's opening it up to us.
Have you run into Bob Flipowski out in North Brookfield by any chance? He's a
No.
coach out there. He'd stick out in your mind. He's a phenomenal coach out there. He's a really good guy. They run a good program, and Andy's been doing it. Oh God, I want to say close to 20 years.
Yeah.
I got involved because my girls were going to school at Madbrook at the time, and that's how I got involved. But he's like you guys, and that's why when you mentioned trying to hook up with them, I thought that's great because their program has been on the decline because a lot fewer kids are playing basketball now, and I was kind of sad to see because they kept losing more and more kids. Which I'm glad to hear that you guys had such a big jump in your membership.
Yeah. What we're hoping is that we can try and help them give it. They still play the traditional practice during December, play games on weekends during January and February, and that's what the community wants. So Andy was a little nervous about, us show-offs coming in with our curriculum and all that, and we assured him that, we just want to play basketball. That's really all we're looking to do. What we do with the kids in between, that's our business, and if you want to send your kids to our clinics, please send them on over because they don't have the resources to offer that to them. So, I invite all North Brookfield kids to join our K2 program and even our travel program, which they don't have either one of those programs.
No, they have those programs, but they're like most of them are like AAU and stuff like
Right.
that. They're more advanced programs.
We got a couple of North Brookfield kids playing in our travel program that we invited over, and we learned of them because Rob ran a free basketball pickup league over at Wire Village through the summer, and we were just inviting anybody that wanted to come down. We'd have jerseys down there. We'd set up teams. We'd ref it, 20-minute halves, run them as much as we could, and it was great.
Well, it's great that the community's got guys like you and Paul and guys helping out with this, because it's like there's nothing better for
It's
kids
not.
in
It's
sport.
not so much me. I coach. It's
Well,
the-
that's
it's
right.
these
Well, it's
guys.
coaches, but I mean,
But
I
it's,
know
you know,
these guys are big in this. It's like,
I'm not
you
in
know,
the trench as much as these guys. These guys are coaching and trying to run the league too. So
and there's a lot of paperwork behind the scenes. I mean,
yeah, I'm good with just coaching.
There's
I've-
a lot.
I've seen some of the stuff that Andy does, like if there'd be a snow delay or something, and trying to get the word out to everybody. And we used to go in early and we'd help set up the gym and break down the gym, you know, at the end of the day. And it's just, that's a lot of work. But then you got to go home and you got to make the phone calls, and you got to do the schedules, and you got to deal with parents that are complaining, which hopefully is not a lot.
Well, the parents do like organization, and when you strive for that, and I send out an entire schedule, only to have that schedule erased because they took away the gyms. Now I have to figure out, okay,
I remember
every
that.
kid paid the same, regardless if you were in town or in travel. Every kid deserves the same. So, but when they took the gym time away from me, I had to cut. So the basketball club, the board of directors elected to refund the in-town kids because we weren't able to give them 2 practices in a game. We felt it was the right thing to do. So we did that. We handed out the refunds, and now, we're reevaluating, and Paul and Rob came up with these great ideas for these clinics to basically say, no, we can't offer you 2 dedicated practices a week, but we can certainly offer you 1 and a clinic where you just
Good
come
idea.
down and practice just skills. And you run them for 2 hours and see what, and most of the kids are just going to absolutely love that.
That's a great idea. I mean, it's about improvising sometimes and making do with what you got.
Well,
Right.
listen, we were good. We were lucky enough to get 3 hours back, and
And that's great. I think
Rob and I
applaud that.
thought the best thing to do is, let's get the skill level up and use those 2 hours. I mean, we're going to have, I don't know, 4 or 5, maybe 4 or 5, at least 4 or 5 teams out there if everybody shows up.
Yeah.
But it's going to be it's going to be open to whoever wants. Hopefully, everybody will have their team show up, and then
Right.
the coaches come with them. But again, it's about that foundation, and if you can build off that foundation, increase those skills, then success is going to come in the future.
Oh,
So-
absolutely. Plus, the kids it's a great thing for kids to do on a Saturday to blow off some steam. It's like, whether it's soccer or basketball or baseball, it's like we need more of that in this community. There's no question.
Yeah.
Because I think sports bond a community quicker than anything else.
Yeah. No, I think that if you look at the kids that play soccer, followed by basketball, followed by football, followed by baseball, those are the kids that are succeeding in the school system. Those are the kids that are they're proud of the town that they play for. They're out there trying their best, and it's a big difference. And we're looking for those kids, and that's the whole idea behind the sports association, is to bring multiple sport venues underneath, so we can work with the bodies, the school committees, the park and rec committees, and all them to let's just package it all up and just offer it to anybody that wants to come in, and just provide this service to the community, so that it's not, oh man, I didn't hear about that sign up, and Junior
That
didn't
happens a lot.
didn't bring home the flyer. I mean, the fact that we still have to communicate through flyers is bad enough. But I'll tell you, I communicate through emails in our website and Facebook, and it still doesn't reach everybody. So flyers is still the way to go.
Well, feel free to use our show. I'm sure Gary Woodbury would tell you the same thing on Talk of the Town. He runs once a month, the first Monday of every month. I think is what I didn't know he does. First
think
Monday
so.
of every month. I'm sure he'd be happy to throw a PSA out for you guys, but do not hesitate to give us a call. Or
I
if
appreciate
Paul's
that.
with the program, just tell Paul, look, can you mention this on the next show? We'll be happy to do anything like that. And is there anything you'd want to tell the folks at home that they should know about, or what you have going on in the future, or what your plans are?
Well, I mean, right now, finally everything is status quo, and we've already launched our regular seasons for the in-town, so that's going to go every single Saturday. We're going to be down doing the K2 program from 9 to 12. If you got a kid that's going to be in it next year, you want to check out what the format is, come on down, check us out. Our second graders start at 10:30. They run from 10:30 to 12. Maybe you have somebody that wasn't sure about it, but wants to see what his friend's doing down there. Maybe they'll get excited to come back next year.
What school is that at, Chris?
That's at East Brookfield.
Okay.
And then we also have 2 3rd and 4th grade games and a 5th and 6th grade game refereed game that goes from 12 to 3. And if you want to come down and check out those and watch some basketball and see these kids get better and better and better, it's a lot of fun. It really is. It's controlled chaos at times, but it's very fun. And
Not
then-
not a lot of scoring.
Not a lot of scoring.
No, I know what
Not
that
a lot
looks
of
like.
scoring. We make those little kids shoot at the 10-foot hoop still, and we feel that is the best way. They'll catch on real quick that way. And then the last event that we have going on is our picture day is going to be on the 24th at East Brookfield, and we're going to send out schedules and tell everybody when to show up, and then it's just a matter of finally throwing the politics aside and just enjoying basketball. And we're really looking forward to doing that.
Excellent. Do you have anything else for Chris, Paul?
No, I'm good. I'm good. I think these guys have turning it the way they have and making it more of a real league rather than just pick up basketball is a good thing. It's enjoyable to see.
I think it's great, and I applaud you guys for the work you're putting in, and because I know how tough it is to take that time every week. And if you've got kids, it's it's time sometimes you're taking away from them too. So it's like I as a citizen, I appreciate it, and I know Paul's kids do. I mean, they have a great time down there.
Yes.
So listen, if there's anything we can do, the show is always open to you. If there's something you want to come in and talk about, anytime, we'll have you as a guest anytime. You call at the last minute, we'll fit you in. Or if you have an announcement that needs to be made, just let us know.
Thank you very much.
All right, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks
See
for
ya.
coming in, man. Appreciate
see
it.
you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, welcome.
We got a lot to talk about tonight, boys and girls. It's it's been pretty busy, to say the least. Let's start with a couple quick things here. Ann Ramsey is starting a new yoga studio in Chalmers Old Space on the 3rd floor at the Sugden Block, which I think is fantastic. Ann's been working really hard at putting this together, and I've seen some of the pictures on Facebook, and she's done a really, really nice job. A couple other things we want to talk about before we get into the biggest part of this. Pupil Services has a new site. I told you about that.
Yes.
You can go on there if you need to contact the teacher. There's emails on there. There's phone numbers on there. They're stepping up and trying to make it more accessible, which I think is fantastic. So I just wanted to give them a shout out on that. I think that was a great idea. And one thing real quick, we're always talking about audits, forensic audits and whatnot. Well, Mr. Scanlon came in to the last select board meeting, and I couldn't make it, so I watched it on TV, and it was kind of funny to watch because Tony Pepe, God bless his heart, mentioned to the select board, he asked Mr. Scanlon, what is a forensic audit? And Mr. Scanlon proceeded to say, well, it's kind of a buzzword. Well, it's not a buzzword. What it is it's a very comprehensive line by line by line, receipt by receipt audit. And Mr. Scanlon started to explain how they do a normal audit. And a normal audit is kind of skimming the surface.
That's all it is.
And he explained it very well. And he said it's basically...
It's more of a snapshot.
Right. The department heads sign off on they do their part. They sign off on it. The selectmen sign off on it. Then Scanlon comes in and takes samplings. So when they're talking about an audit, and we've said before, well, for one reason or another, we need a forensic audit. And they're like, well, we've already had an audit. Well, that really doesn't mean that much in the grand scheme of things. And even he admitted it. Mm-hmm. He said a forensic audit is probably 5 times more expensive. He said just as a rough number. And he said, but it is very comprehensive. And he said, because you have an audit does not necessarily mean that there's no malfeasance going on. Which is kind of, not that that's reflective of anything, not really in the grand scheme of things. You're doing an audit to try to get a bearing on where the district is going. But if you really want to know what's going on, you do a forensic audit. So I thought that was something that, that definitely needed to be mentioned.
So what was the answer?
Well, he said,
I know what the answer is.
He's like, are you, it was funny because he said, why, you guys thinking about having a forensic audit? No, absolutely not. No, we're not going to touch that with a 10-foot pole because God knows we don't want to shake that tree down. A lot of crazy stuff going on. Recently, apparently the Spencer Rescue Squad, from what we understand, might be going out of business soon. Nobody's actually come out and run a white flag up.
This is hearsay. These are rumors. These are people getting in touch with us, giving us this information. But yes, from what I heard,
Looks like pretty good information.
it looks like pretty good information, and it could be the end of January, maybe February, that they're just going to close the doors, lock the doors, and say goodbye. Until somebody calls me and tells me different, I'm going to have to kind of follow that direction. it just seems comical that Mr. Suter's leaving the Spencer Rescue Squad.
Who knew?
Was that supposed to come out?
Well, it came out Monday. It came out Tuesday night. That's what prompted all this. Was
Right.
school
And just so
committee
everybody knows, I made a telephone call to the Spencer Rescue Squad today. I made two. Nobody answered. I left a message the first time. The question that I asked Mr. Suter was, we have heard rumors that the Spencer Rescue Squad potentially may be closing its doors or going bankrupt or going out of business. All I'm trying to do is confirm that. Yes or no, maybe. I got no telephone call back. The second time I called, it went right to the voicemail again, so I didn't leave another message.
No reason.
I thought they had a secretary there.
They did. They did have a secretary.
Well, when I called, all you get is a voicemail, and it says press 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's like 5 or 6 different selections. So I don't know where she went, but
Well, what brought all this up was I was at the school committee meeting Tuesday night, and it's not very often I get surprised or even shocked at a school committee meeting. But I'm sitting there, and as soon as I think it was like, I want to say it was like 10 minutes and 39 seconds in. I think because I posted it this morning, or I posted it a couple days
like
ago.
10-minute and 30-second mark. or
Yeah, it
something.
was at that mark, and they go, now to discuss new business, and they roll right into the business manager, and they hire Gary Suter. Now, just for the record, I have no problem with Gary. I don't personally know. I've dealt with Gary a couple times because of the because of the whole thing with the Spencer Rescue Squad. We went through that whole thing, and I was very involved with that because I went to the meetings. I talked to Rob White at Vital. But long story short, that stunned me because that was the first I had heard that I was like, well, what's going to happen with the Spencer Rescue Squad? So, and Josh, can you jump in here? We were talking earlier about voting on it, how the school committee voted on it, and Josh was like, why would they vote on it? Josh, you want to jump in here?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Talk a little
Yeah,
louder.
go a little louder.
A little louder. How's that? Is that better?
Yeah, that's
I think
good.
so.
Is that okay? All right.
Explain, because the thing we didn't understand when because I went home and I watched the tape again, and they call him a comptroller. So we hire.
I'd
Go
like
ahead.
to know what they were. I mean, what's the difference between the business manager and the comptroller? In the real world, there's a pretty big difference. How did they differentiate that? And if they hired a comptroller, then they actually don't have the authority to hire a comptroller. If they hired a business manager who doesn't have a license, and he's going to get a license, then they hired a business manager. There's a big difference. So I'm at a loss at what they did and why they did it.
Well, I can't get an answer back from the chair of the school committee because he won't call me back. I've called him twice now, and I would have asked that. Well, I've already asked him that question once. Is of why Gary Suter? Of all the people you could have, I mean, because there were people on Facebook. I'm not going to mention any names, but there were people on Facebook. It was a person on Facebook.
Did they do a real search?
Yes, from what I understand, they did a search. Josh, didn't you say that there
So
was
the best they could come up with is a guy who doesn't really have any experience in
schools? Not that I'm aware of.
school.
Well, we have all
Business
these
management?
questions. It would be nice if they had explained all of this. They could have interviewed 10 people, offered a couple people a job. They could have said, "No, I don't really want to come here. Well, it's not enough money. I don't like the contract, whatever." They could have gone through people and ended up with these guys that didn't have licenses that wouldn't have been picked before these other people. And this might be where we actually are. But they didn't explain that. They also didn't explain what they were hiring. And nobody on the committee even asked, can we hire this person? So this whole thing, it makes no sense whatsoever. If you look at the law, the school committee can only fill a few positions. All right, that's superintendent, assistant superintendent, the director of pupil services, the business manager, the director of attendance, nurses. It's very laid out and specific. A comptroller is not on that list. So what are they doing? That's my question. What are they doing? And why didn't they think it was important to explain it to us at the school committee meeting? It's our money. We're the taxpayers. We're paying for the thing. Why didn't they explain it to us? It sounds like this was all done behind closed doors. They came out and took the vote. I know when I was on the school committee, we were accused of that.
Josh, how dare you bring that up?
I'm just saying. I mean, by certain people that are now on the committee, it's a funny thing. You know?
It's
just
it's different,
Canvas
Josh.
thing, huh?
It's different. It's different now.
so.
How dare
that's-
you bring
that's
up
my
that?
perspective.
How dare you bring that up?
I'm a bad person. Everybody knows that. They've seen
It's
me
a-
on the school committee.
I guess. Well, when the meeting was when the meeting wasn't over, but they moved on to another subject. Gary went down and introduced himself, and then immediately went out the building. And I grabbed him because this is the first I'm hearing
Well,
that.
not literally.
No. He was walking out, and I said, Gary, I said, can I ask you a question? And he says, yeah. And I said, so, are you leaving Spencer Rescue Squad? And he says, well, there will be a transition. I said, are you leaving Spencer Rescue Squad? Well, there's going to be. I said, are you leaving Spencer Rescue Squad? Yes, I'm going to be leaving Spencer Rescue Squad, and there will be a transitional period. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. And it's like I was stunned because number one, I didn't know Spencer Rescue Squad was going under. Number two, the first thing I'm asking, I asked Kyle, one of our producers, I asked Kyle, does this mean that somebody else would be taking over Spencer Rescue Squad? Because he works in the fire services as a volunteer. And I thought maybe he'll know. He says, I don't have a clue. So then the next day I'm making some phone calls, and a couple of sources we know got in touch with me and said, look, we're tracking this, and it looks like they'll be lucky to be in business by the end of February. They'll be lucky to still be in business.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but did they not even show up at the last big fire?
From
there?
what I understand, the last fire we had, they didn't show. They
Were
because
they out on call?
They were out on a call,
Okay.
obviously. So
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe they just didn't have any.
and that I mean
money.
this and Aaron, this is for you. Not to go into back history, because I know Aaron hates when I do the history thing, but unfortunately the problem with this community, and we've said this time and time and time again, people like, why do you keep bringing up the past? Well, because it keeps slapping us in the face constantly. It's like, here we are once again. What was this, 2.5 years ago, we were sitting down and we were looking at using Vital for 3 years for no money, for $0. Okay? And I'm fighting with the select board, and I'm talking on the town floor. And I said on the town floor, this is the biggest sweetheart deal I have ever seen. Because Gary's a former selectman. We're taking money for an override, giving it to a private entity, but we can't technically give it to a private entity, but we can give it to the fire department and we can funnel the money through there. Okay, fine. If this is what we got to do, I didn't like the way they did it at the time. I didn't like the way they lied to the seniors. I didn't like the way they lied on Donnie Berthium and Wendy Berthium's show, Talk of the Town. I mean, I watched that show 4 times and just did nothing but
I remember
scribble
doing that.
notes.
I remember going all over.
And
all
I
that
remember
stuff.
going through all this, and I remember calling Gary Suter and asking Gary Suter. We did the due diligence. I talked to Rob White on a number of occasions. I looked at the contracts. I looked at everything. I sat before the select board, and all they're doing is, well, it's not the same thing as Vital. Really? Well, how's that working out for us now? How is that really working out?
So they
for
get
this community now?
$450,000 of the taxpayers' money, not $150,000. It's $450. It was $150,000.
Well, they'll get less than $450 because they get it monthly. They don't get a whole package. They get so much money every month is put into that account. But still, at the end of the day, we've spent money for something for a product that's not there.
At the end of the day, it was the ballot said $450,000, not $425,000 or $415. It said $450,000, which came out to $150,000 a year for 3 years. Correct?
Yep.
So, what happens to that money? Let's say they do go out of business.
Well, there'll be an underride then. They'll have an underride. Josh says they'll have an epic keg party.
Yeah.
They'll do an underride, which basically reverses the override, and so basically that money is taken
Okay.
back off. Well, that's what we're gonna go.
Wink,
We're
wink.
gonna go with that right now.
Yeah.
But that's what I would imagine that would do. Well, with what's going to happen at this point, because I talked to a couple people today, and who I would have reason to believe are in the know, and what they basically said was Leicester is already doing a bunch of mutual aid for us. And why is Leicester doing mutual aid? Because East Brookfield was getting burned out, and ironically, this is what happens. East Brookfield, and North Brookfield form their own regional hub and don't even bother to deal with us. Why? Because Gary Suter and Spencer Rescue Squad couldn't even get along with the Paxton Rescue Squad.
Oh,
who
wait a
was
minute.
our
Paxton,
backup.
was that the $150,000 contract per year that
Yeah.
we had with them? And how much was the override for?
150,000.
Shucks.
I
It's
know,
the
it's-
same number.
Who knew? I mean,
All right, so let's say this they do go out of business.
Okay.
So you have a building that has a note on it. You have a couple of ambulances. You got a whole bunch of equipment. So what happens to all that stuff?
I'm hearing rumors, and this is strictly rumors, that they are moving to liquidate everything. Now, whether or not they're going to offer to the town, I don't know. I've heard that
You
there's.
got to liquidate it.
Well, I also heard
Okay,
there was.
here you go.
It's a fire
I
sale.
work for the town. Okay, I'm a selectman or whatever Adam's job is. I call him in the office and say, listen, you're not gonna take all that stuff.
We've
and
been
sell
paying
it.
for this.
You're not gonna take and sell all that stuff. We've got $450,000 dedicated to you. Here's a thought: leave, just go quietly. Okay, we'll take over the building. We'll pay the note
Which
on
I
it.
think is a great idea.
We'll pay the note on it. You're gonna leave the equipment because where does the money go if they liquidate it? Where's it go?
Well, see, the other side of that is depending on how much is owed on the note on the building for Spencer Rescue Squad, how are they going to pay for it? How's the town
You got
gonna pay for it?
$150,000. You got $450,000.
But we still have to worry about signing an agreement with Lester.
I wouldn't sign an agreement. I'd call Vital and say, hey, listen,
I imagine that's probably
I got a building
possibility.
for. Listen, this didn't go right. We had some problems. Just take it like a man. Say, we got a building for you. We've got an ambulance. We need some people. Let's make this work.
Hold on, Kyle, can you say that again? I know we do, but the mutual aid agreements right now, from the way I understood, the way it was explained to me today, because I talked to somebody today, we do have mutual agreements with other towns, but they're through the Spencer Rescue Squad. So if we do something, say we do something on our own, like one of the ideas that was possibly suggested was, since Lester's already a backup, if they would be willing to bring a truck and leave it in our place. Like, we have, the annex is almost done. They're putting the toilets in. Maybe we can have a truck up here, but we would have to do an arrangement, us, the town, with Lester, which is fine. Now we all still have to depend on backup mutual aid from other towns now. So now, whereas at least we had Spencer Rescue Squad and we had Lester as a backup, now we got Lester, and who knows how much of a backup we're going to get from other towns. We got screwed on this. There's no two ways about it. Said this from day one. And this is, I'm not enjoying this at all, because this puts us in a serious bind. And now, the piece de resistance is, now we're going to take that same individual who ran Spencer Rescue Squad.
I'm going to say individuals. Let's make that plural.
Well, because he runs it.
I understand that.
He runs it.
But
That's
there
like
was
when
also-
we blame Malvy.
Yeah,
Malvy, there's other individuals in the
there's-
school, but you
but-
blame the person who's running it.
Yep, but there's a board of directors, and there were certain people
Okay, that's
involved in
fair,
that
that's
board
fair.
of directors. Okay,
It's like the school committee. You're
okay,
right.
that
You're right.
that petitioned for this override, who decided to have we're going to open the books and show everybody everything at noontime at the senior center.
Oh, believe me, we were in an uproar about that, you and I, because I would have loved doing golf, but it was on a Friday at 12 o'clock. They opened up the books during the day. They hit the senior centers. They did them at lunchtime. They didn't have anything at night. And when they did it with the town, I'll never forget it. The day Paxton, we knew Paxton was going to bail, because I had sources in Paxton who were like, look, this is not going to happen. They're stalling till September, and then they're going to, adios. We'll see. And that's exactly what happened. I told the selectmen that. I told anybody who would listen that. And what happens? Gary comes before the board, and the selectmen are like, I know you were shocked to find out Paxton didn't want to be with you guys anymore. It's like, are you serious? Are you guys the only guys in town that didn't have a clue this was going to happen? And I'm not saying that I'm like all seeing that. Far from it. I've been wrong as much as I've been right on certain issues. But let me tell you, on this one, we nailed it from the beginning. And that's not to be happy, because now we're going to give this guy a job as a comptroller, accountant, business manager. Choose whatever your nomenclature is. Now this guy's going to run our schools.
This is the Retread Society. Okay, it's the retreads.
And on top of that,
who's your buddy?
On top
Who's your
of that,
pal?
you got a conflict of interest with Vinny Cloutier once again. Here's Vinny. Vinny fought for him when they were doing the Spencer Rescue Squad. He looked at Donnie Berthium at a public meeting and said, I want to know how you're going to vote on the Spencer Rescue Squad override. And Donnie, God love him, the one of the few times I've seen him have any backbone, looked right at him and said, it's none of your business. It was great. And I remember, Donnie and I weren't talking at the time, but I sent him an email and said, nice job. I was proud of you. You know, Vinny goes before the selectmen, before the town hall vote, and hassles all them. I can't believe you're not backing this more. You're not doing this. You're not doing that. Then the vote comes for the board. Does Vinny recuse himself? Vinny doesn't have to recuse himself. Even though he was a board member until recently and got off, he was still on that board and had a conflict of interest with Gary. And of course, it was a unanimous vote. Can we stop voting our friends in and getting them jobs? Now, maybe not. This is Spencer, because we seem to be doing this again and again
This is like,
and again.
it's like the NFL. You know how coaches come back around. It's like, Rex Ryan gets fired. Buffalo's looking at him. It's like,
He's never going anywhere.
It's like,
But that's
are
a
you
closed.
kidding me?
That's a closed ecosystem. So I understand that.
Okay,
at
we can't.
least, you know?
We had a business manager in here who obviously left because the place is a mess, and the people running it were a mess, and some of the school committee members are a mess. Obviously, she's like, I don't want any part of this, and said adios. So now what do we got? We've got somebody coming in who hasn't been able to run the Spencer Rescue Squad. And I think we had some conversation about, how come you guys are short on money, and this went to the insurance companies, and, well, we can't go after everybody, and the checks go to them, and yada, yada, yada. How do all these other towns survive? How do all the other towns survive?
I'm amazed. When they announced that, I looked, because when they walked in, Kyle Pierce came in, and he's our producer, and he sat down, and he goes, not for nothing. He says, Gary Suter's out in the hallway. And I looked at him and I said, no. Aaron was sitting right there, and I said,
You sent me a
I said, they can't be dumb enough to hire Gary Suter for this, because it's such a bag job. It's so blatant. It's like, well, Vinny's buddy needs a job, so now we're gonna put him over here. Kevin won't even return my phone calls. Because I went in and talked to Kevin afterwards, and I'm like, how could you do? We're not going to talk about this now. I said, okay, that's fair. That's fair. We'll talk about this later. But you got to answer my phone calls. That's not going to happen. It's like, it's one of those. Talk about the old boy network. In fact, somebody on the Spencer Forum said, this smacks of cronyism. You think? It's like, this was so blatant. It's like, we don't need no stinking rules. We can do whatever we want.
It's unbelievable.
And that's how it is in this town.
It's unbelievable how, instead of going out and really actively pursuing somebody.
And to be fair, they did. They did.
How do you know?
Because from what I understand, they did interview. They've been having trouble trying to get anybody to come in, because this district is such a hot mess that nobody really wants to touch this. They don't. Who wants to? If you're a business, and it's a small community, these people all talk because they're a part of an association. Just like superintendents all talk, just like principals all talk. People are looking at this district and they're laughing. Now they're really laughing, because now, seriously, is this let's get this district back on track, or let's give Gary Suter a job? And this is nothing against Gary, and this is certainly nothing against the Spencer Rescue Squad professionals that do this job day in and day out.
No. This is about management.
Not in the least.
This is all about management.
This is nothing to do with the guys, the rank and file, the men and the women that are working there, and I can't be clear enough about that. But your management, you've got some issues. And you've had some issues. You had issues with Paxton. Jay Conte wanted nothing to do with these guys. In fact, if you remember, Paul, when I went to the meeting, I went to the Paxton meeting, and Donnie
You're not
Birkin,
gonna bring up the email, are you?
oh, there was a profanity-laced email that came from Jay Conte to Gary Suter, and then when he went to the meeting, it wasn't an email, it was a profanity-laced voicemail that Gary had gotten from Jay Conte. Well, do you have it? Well, no. I don't have it. I mean, come on. If you're gonna tell a story, tell that story well. This is the kind of thing, and this is the guy you're gonna install as an accountant, comptroller, whatever you want to call it.
Well, listen,
it's a joke.
You don't have any kids in the district. I have kids in the district. Okay, and I've been pretty positive about turning this thing around. Let's get this thing back on track. Let's make sure we have the right people hired. And let's make sure that we're going to continue in a positive direction. Yes, we bring up the past, and yes, but you know what? This was one of the things that just really took the air out of my sails. when this was when you called me, sent me a text, and this came, through when it was really voted on and accepted, this really just took the wind out
It's
of my sails.
mind-numbing.
It's like
How do
I
you do
can't.
this?
I don't know.
How
I
do
don't
you
know.
do this? And you don't even have to be a fan of politics and Spencer to understand. Wait a minute, we just gave this guy $450,000 to bail out a private company because they're Spencer Rescue Squad, and they've been here for 57 years, which is great if you can keep them running. But unfortunately, you couldn't. And the one thing I said to the selectmen was, how do we know they're even going to be here in 3 years? Well, 2.5 years later, it looks like nothing's positive, but it's like, if Gary's jumping ship, trust me, they're not going to find somebody. They're not going to spend more money to put somebody else in there, I don't think. And from all the things we're hearing from fairly reliable sources, is that's probably not going to be the case. I'm disgusted. And the school committee, I understand most of these people, but Kevin is a former selectman. He knows Gary. Vinny, do I need to say any more? It's like the rules just don't seem to apply.
No.
And common sense certainly doesn't seem to apply.
And man, do I remember sitting there getting lambasted for weeks upon weeks. How could you let this happen? You should have known this. You should have done this. Why are you having meetings behind closed doors? Blah, 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 blah. And lo and behold, it all comes right back around, and all of a sudden they're doing the same exact thing, if not more.
Oh,
the
yeah.
same exact things as we were blamed for, which a majority of them we weren't even doing, to tell you the truth. And a lot of it had to do with legal counsel saying you can do this, you can't do this. So
there was more you couldn't talk about than things you
Correct.
could talk about.
And I still can't.
There's open meeting law violations these guys have committed. There's the routing of Deb Zablocki, that whole cabal that was just going after her, and at least 2 or 3 of those members were on the school committee. It's like this whole thing, it's just has gotten, and then you hired Malvey. You didn't have to hire Malvey. If you'd have just done, I Googled Malvey, and the first thing I found was that within 5 months, Oxford got rid of him. They kicked him to the curb. Guess he couldn't get along with others. I mean, you could read between the lines when you're reading the article, but within 5 months, he was gone. What did we do? When Chris King, God bless him, back in August or September said, when are we going to start the superintendent search? Vinny, we don't need to do that right now. Now, keep in mind, at that time, a lot of people were in the pool. There was a lot of people to work from. And Vinny, we don't need to do that right now. We can wait until the spring. It'll be a better time. Well, yeah, how'd that work out for us? Okay?
I don't know how many times we heard that.
It's like, I'm tired of sitting there, because we haven't really said much about the school committee, and it's not the school committee per se, but certain members on this committee
Certain members.
have just been an absolute train wreck.
Shock.
Well, the 2 most vocal opponents are the ones that are sitting by watching most of this stuff go down the river, floating down the river now. So how's that working out for us? And when I mention it, it's like, well, I don't remember that happening. Yeah, I remember you didn't do this and you didn't do that. And it was like all the finger pointing and, because that was like that 2 months leading up to the election when there was nobody else running against these 2. It's like, if you're going to point fingers, you know what, you better start wearing some Teflon underwear.
I remember people in the audience saying, you guys need to resign. All of you need to resign. I don't see any of those people at the school committee meetings.
I don't see them at school committee meetings. I don't see them running for school committee. It's like, please.
It's not as easy as what you think.
No, and these guys are finding out the hard way. It's like, and nobody made it look easy when you guys were on. It was like French Bastille Day. They were ready to tear you down like Marie Antoinette. At one meeting I was at, it was absolutely vicious. And it's
Karma,
like,
dude, man, I like it when it comes back around.
Well, you know what? Make better decisions. Don't be
It's not gonna
installing
happen.
somebody who's a former selectman. We're helping him out again because if he leaves here, where's he going to go? Where's he going to go? I mean, it means he's going to have to go get a job someplace else. So we funded him for 2.5 years. Now we're going to fund him. He's being paid until July 2017, and he's going to earn $81,230.64 a year plus benefits, which good for him. Like I said, I have no.
That's to the district?
Yeah.
That's- Did they say when the start date was?
He's going to be starting, I would imagine, within the next couple of weeks. Because I don't know exactly, but I know he's going to be segueing in.
Oh, that's
quick.
that transition period.
That's.
Do we know, is there still a guy from Boston here? Is there still a guy?
I believe so.
An overseer?
He's useless, but he's
Yes,
here.
there is an overseer here.
a voice
Wow.
from above.
Is that you, Dad?
Wow.
That was pretty impressive, Josh.
Is that good? You
No,
like it?
that was. I'm telling
So
you, dude.
we still have the overseer.
Yeah, we still pay money to have the state oversee us. And I'm sure they think it's brilliant that we decided, we don't need a business manager. We're going to do a comptroller.
They wouldn't have
It's a
they
cooler
wouldn't,
word, right?
How come they wouldn't have a say in that?
They
Isn't
really,
that strange?
Nah, well, no, because it's like, you know, it's
Oh,
like.
hang on now. We got Kurt Norquist on the line. Hold
good.
on.
Here we go. Good evening, Mr. Norquist.
How you doing, Bob?
I'm living the dream. What can we do for you?
I just want to clarify a couple of statements there.
Sure.
I just want to clarify a couple of statements.
Okay.
What happened after the meeting, which if I don't want to discuss, if you want to discuss, that's fine. But I think that was uncalled for. You talked to one member, you talked to myself, but I think that was uncalled for.
Well, the other member, that was between me and the other member. Between you and me, if you want to talk about it, that's fine.
No, I don't want to say no names, but I just think it was unprofessional.
No, I'm talking about between you and me.
Yeah, well, I think that was unprofessional. It doesn't bother me, but I think it was unprofessional.
Well, it obviously bothers you, Kurt, if you're bringing it up. And I mean, we're friends. We've been knowing each other for a long time. If I can't swear at you, I can't swear at anybody.
No, it doesn't bother me, like I said, but I think it was on school property. It wasn't.
What difference does it make, Kurt? I wasn't smoking a cigarette.
No, that's okay. I didn't say you did. And the second thing is you get a few things wrong. As far as I know, I'm just a person like yourself.
Yep.
I don't know if the rescue squad's going out of business. I haven't heard that. I talked to some people in town hall this week who worked there, and they didn't hear that. I asked them, so it's a rumor till it comes out.
We pretty much said that, Kurt. We're not, this is a possible scenario from what we're hearing.
And the rescue squad's a private entity. They get their own board of directors. We don't own them. They own
No,
themselves.
we understand that.
The business, if they go out of business, they can liquidate themselves, and we don't own that building, and it'll probably be for sale.
No, what Paul is saying is he was saying what he would like to see, not what's going to happen. We're just talking rhetorically here. It's like, we have no control over what they do. They are a private entity being funded, I might add, by town funds.
But that was voted by the taxpayers.
Well, that was sold to the taxpayers as a bad bill of goods.
You have two.
Whether it's sold or not, the people vote just like you voted town meeting or you vote an override up and down.
Do you think it was a fair representation of the voters?
Paul, I can just tell you, the people who go and vote, that's how it counts. If the majority wins, that's how it goes. Where you think there should be 100 people, 1,000 people, you know that on every town meeting, the majority of people don't come out. There's maybe 150, 200 people come out and vote. So that you got to figure that's how you got to vote, whether it's up or down, whether it's for or against. Your right came up there against the town hall. I support it, but it lost by 500 votes. The first time was 40 votes. So, I mean, the voters have spoken, and they're not going to support an override for the town or the school in the near future.
We're not even talking about that.
We're not talking about
We're not
that.
talking about that. We're talking about the Spencer Rescue Squad going in front of the town and going in front of the selectmen saying we need $150,000 right now. Okay, for the next 3 years. That's $450,000 override. That's public funds going to a private company, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So don't tell me the town shouldn't have some say in the matter of what goes on in that building and what happens with the equipment if they go out of business.
Because, Paul, that's a separate entity, like I just told Bob. It's the Spencer Rescue Squad, INC, Inc. We gave them a contribution, so to say. We had no say on it. We have no board of directors from the town. We gave them a donation over a 3-year period of $150,000 because there was something they couldn't be out of business. They could go out of business. So to keep them going, we gave them the money. We didn't tell them how to spend it. We gave it to them.
Now, Kurt, did you have a problem with the fact that we could have had Vital, the same service, for 3 years for $0? You didn't think that might have been a better deal?
I don't know. That wasn't Bob on the ballot to vote.
No, it was that's right. It wasn't on the ballot to vote, but I guess that goes to what Paul was saying, Kurt, was that we were not given information that was correct the seniors were lied to or misled at the very least. There were seniors that walked out of that building from talking to Pam Woodbury. I know this because I'm on the Council on Aging. And she said those seniors were so sure by the time they got done talking that if they didn't vote for Spencer Rescue Squad, there would be no rescue, there would be no ambulance service whatsoever. They were never told about Vital. There was never, because Vital was downplayed at everything. And that's the only thing I have a problem with, Kurt. Not how people voted, but they voted on the information they were given. And the information they were given was at best limited, and a lot of it was misled. Very misled, and purposely so. On Donnie Berthium's show, by Gary Suter, and by the people who presented to the seniors. That's all we're saying.
Well, if that's the case, if
That was the case.
if Spencer Rescue Squad is going to go out of business, like you heard, well, then that'll be up to Vital to come in and sell this story.
Well, Vital won't do it. Vital will not do it for free anymore. I talked to Rob White when this first happened, and I said, should Spencer Rescue Squad go under in a year, 18 months, whatever, would you come in with the same offer? And they said, absolutely not. This is a one-time deal. If you want to vote for us, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine. Because I spoke to Rob White on at least 4 or 5 occasions, and they had a lot of conversations with him, and I talked to Gary Suter. And everybody kept downplaying Vital, up to and including Adam Gaudette.
Well, and that could be because I don't think anybody works for free today, Bob. Nobody works for free.
Well, see, that's what everybody kept saying, Kurt, but it was a 3-year contract, and it would have been signed, so they would have had to work for free. But that's really neither here nor there. We got about a minute left for you, Kurt. What? You anything else?
Okay, I just want to say, Mr. Cloutier, he make the motion. I made the motion.
No, I know.
I made the motion for salary, so he voted as a member. He didn't push to have this guy go forward or whatever. So
we didn't speak to that. All we're saying is it's he should have, at the very least, he should have recused himself. And it's kind of funny, Kurt, that once again here we are in a situation where Gary Suter, his friend, comes up and he's going to get a job, and the town's going to end up bailing him out a second time.
the town's not going to bail him out because he's working for East Brookfield for school district. We're in separate.
That's where the town, Kurt. The town is paying for their salaries. Okay, so he is working for the town as well as the school district.
East Brookfield School is their own entity. You and Paul both know that, and Josh. We're our own entity. We're our own.
Yeah, but
own budget,
Kurt, we're
else.
paying for it. We're taxpayers. We all own it. We own a piece of that.
Their share. That's all I pay.
All right, Kurt. I got to let you go because we're almost done.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for calling, Kurt. Appreciate it. You want to wrap that? We'll go to the PSAs.
You know what? I don't want to wrap that anymore because I just can't deal with that kind of logic. Anyways, so listen, we got.
All right, let's do the PSAs.
All right, first one's the Booster Club Super Bowl pre-party, January 24th at 6 o'clock at the Spencer Country Inn. And from what I've heard, this thing is a hoot to go to.
We gotta go.
My
We
wife
gotta
and
go to
I
this.
are going to go this year.
Pardon me.
But I guess they pack the place every year. They want to pack it this year. I guess it's year 5. Again, it was,
There we go.
Mickey. There it is. Mickey Dean and that whole crew does a great job with the Booster Club, and I think this is a brilliant,
Be a good night out.
A brilliant night. I think it's going to be a riot. So
it'll be fun.
they're going to have raffles and DJ and.
I can dance too. I don't even need any alcohol.
We'll leave that where it goes. Moving on quickly from that.
DPHS Show Choir, Valentine's Dinner, February 14th at the Spencer Country Inn. This is supposed to be a really good bash, and Spencer Country Inn does a really nice job, so if at all you can attend that'd be great. Spencer Fire Department still looking for volunteers. Thank you again to St. Mary's for doing the job that they do in Toys for Tots. Spencer Toys for Tots, run by Donna Flannery and all the amazing people down there. Thank you and phenomenal job, folks. Please check out our Facebook page. Stop talking to me, Josh. Check out our Facebook page, and you can view our old and current shows at YouTube. Go to YouTube, Spencer Cable Access. This is the Knox Trail High School fundraiser, Monday, January 19th, 4 to 9 p.m. This will be helping out. It's a community fundraiser, so if you can attend that would be great. Check out Lily Lund's pages, the Spencer Open Forum, the Spencer Non-Collaborative Spencer Eastbrook for
Oh,
the
we didn't even
non-collaborative
touch on the PTO. We'll have to do it in
and
2
the
weeks.
Spencer Bulletin Board. Lily, you get any more sites? We're going to run out of room to talk about it. I'm exhausted. Thank you very much, Paul. As always,
Wrap it
thank you.
up.
Thank you, Josh, Kyle.
Go Pats, Saturday.
Go Pats. Yes. Go Patriots. And thank you, Aaron.
See you in
Hasta la vista. We'll see
2
you
weeks.
next time, folks. Thank you. Take care.